Hiya, my name's Tim Porteous. If you haven't seen me before, I am a storyteller, so people often call me Tim the Storyteller. Usually I can come into classrooms in the school and tell you stories there, but of course at the moment that's not possible, so that's why I'm telling you stories from my house. Now there are lots of different types of stories I tell, and there's lots of different types of stories I like. There's probably lots of different types of stories you like. So the first thing we have to think of is, where do stories come from? They come from lots of different places, books, and they come from tradition, from your family, from your imagination. The story I'd like to tell you today actually comes from a poem written by a man called Robert Burns. It's now a really famous story. I live in Prestonpans, and by the sea there's a building which has a mural inside. Come on, I'll show you. Here is a building at the shore of Prestonpans, and inside there is a fantastic mural by Kate Hunter with images from the poem and story Tam o' Shanter. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and tell you the story of Tam o' Shanter using a little bit of the poetry, help you understand it by telling you the story with the poetry, and use Kate's fantastic images in the mural to help illustrate it. And to help us tell the story, we'll have the Drams Ceilidh Band playing us some music. What do you think? Do you think that'll work? Shall we give it a go? You up for listening? Now, it's a bit spooky. I can't tell you everything that's in the poem because some of it's pretty gruesome and you would have to read it yourself to find out. But what I would like to do is tell you the story to give you a flavour both of Robert Burns' poetry but also the story of Tam o' Shanter. You up for that? Okay, let's see if it's going to work, shall we? Here we go. The tale of Tam o' Shanter. Well, our story begins about 250 years ago in the town of Ayr in southwest Scotland. And there, in a tavern, late at night, Tam o' Shanter is enjoying the company of his best friend, Suitor Johnny. Well, they'd known each other for years, and they loved each other as if they were brothers. They were catching up, having a recht good blether together. The trouble is, Tam forgot that he promised his wife he wouldn't be late. Her name was Kate. She was sitting at home waiting for him, getting more annoyed that Tam was breaking his promise. She was gathering her brows like gathering storm, nursing her wrath to keep it warm. Oh dear. But as Burns says in his poem, but pleasures are like poppies spread. He sees the flower its bloom is shed. Or like the snow falls in the river, a moment white, then melts forever. Which means everything comes to an end, including Tam's evening with his best pal, Suitor Johnny, and now he has to go home. But there's young thing he hadn't noticed. The weather. The weather was terrible. It was raining and the wind was howling. The wind blew as 'twad blown its last. The rattling showers rose on the blast. That night a child might understand. The deal had business on his hand. The deal is the devil. Well, after saying goodbye to his good friend Suitor Johnny, Tam went out to get his horse, Meg. Well, Meg is short for Maggie, and she was a faithful horse. She'd been waiting for him all that time, and now she was going to take him home. But to get home, Tam had to ride through a very spooky wood, which took him past Old Alloway Kirk, which was a ruined church, and everybody ken it was haunted. Wheel mounted on his grey mare Meg, a better never lifted leg, Tam skelpit on through Dubbenmire, despising wind and rain and fire. Whilst holding fast his gid blue bonnet, whilst crooning o'er some old Scots sonnet, whilst glowering round with prudent cares, lest bogles catch him unawares. Kirk Alloway was drawing nigh, where ghasts and hoolets nightly cry. And then, as Tam approached old Alloway Kirk, he heard the sound of music, bagpipes, and the sound of folk dancing. When, glimmering through the groaning trees, Kirk Alloway seemed in a bleeze. Through ilka bore the beams were glancing, and loud resounded mirth and dancing. Having a party? Who's going to be having a party in an old haunted church on a night like this? Well, if Tam was a wise man, he would have continued on his journey home to his wife Kate. But he was awfully curious. He wanted to ken what was going on in the kirk. And so he went up to the kirk and had a wee keek through yin of the windows. And he couldn't believe what his een were showing him. There was a party going on. Warlocks and witches in a dance. Nae contillin Brent new frae France, but hornpipes, jigs, strath, bays and reels put life and metal in their heels. There were witches and warlocks having a ceilidh. But then Tam saw him, the person who was playing the music, in the corner. A winnock bunker in the east, there sat old Nick in shape o' beast. He screwed the pipes and gart them skirl, till roof and rafters all did dirl. It was the devil himself, playing the pipes to the witches and the warlocks. But then Tam looked around the old kirk, and suddenly he realised why the kirk was all lit up. There were coffins lining the walls of the old kirk, which were opened with dead bodies holding candles. Coffins stood round like open presses that showed the deed in their last dresses, and by some devilish cantrip slicht, each in its cold hand held a licht. Well, Tam looked around the kirk, and he saw terrible things. Things so terrible and gruesome I can't tell you here. Well, Tam was watching the dancing going on. Ugh, the witches and the warlocks, they were horrible looking. They were dancing and they were sweating and they were all smelly. They reeled, they set, they crossed, they click it, till ilka carlin swat and reek it. But then he saw yin bonny witch. She was a great dancer. She was the only bonny one amongst them, and her dancing was the best. Well, Tam watched her dance, and he forgot where he was. He forgot he was watching a ceilidh of witches and warlocks hosted by the deil. And he roars out, "Well done, Cutty Sark!" And in an instant, all was dark. Knew they kent he was there, and they were going to come and get him. Tam, quickly realising his mistake, ran as fast as he could down to his faithful horse Meg. He kent he had to ride as fast as he could. The witches and warlocks were coming after him, and scarcely had he Maggie rallied when out the hellish legion sallied. The witches and warlocks, they were screaming and howling as they were chasing after him. Tam was galloping as fast as he could, scared to look over his shoulder. He could hear them richt behind him. But if you get to the Brig o' Doon and cross over the bridge before they caught him, he kent he would be safe, for witches will never cross running water. But could he do it? Well, it was all up to Meg. Could she run fast enough to get to the brig before the witches and warlocks got Tam? Come on, Meg! So Maggie runs, the witches follow, with money and eldritch screech and hollow. Now do thy speedy utmost, Meg, and win the keystone o' the brig. There at them, though thy tail may toss, a running stream they dare na cross. Meg was running her hair toot, and there in front of them was the brig. They were nearly there, but the witches and the warlocks were richt ahint them. Just as Tam reached the brig, one of the witches reached out her hand. She got hold of Meg's tail and pulled as hard as she could, and ripped it from poor Meg's body. The curdling caught her by the rump, and left poor Maggie scarce a stump. Poor Maggie, but they had just made it to the brig. Tam got home safely, thanks to his faithful mare, Meg. Well, that's kind of the end of the story as Burns told it, although he's got a wee moral at the end. He says, if you're ever going to be late home, just remember Tam o' Shanter's mare. The places that this story is set are still there. The old ruined kirk of Alloway, and also the Brig o' Doon, close by. Lots of people go and visit it. And like many stories, although it finishes there, many people have added to it later. Many of them have wondered, what did Tam O'Shanter's wife, Kate, think when her husband Tam arrived, all sweaty and exhausted, with a horse without a tail, with a story about seeing witches and warlocks dancing in the old haunted kirk, and how he was chased and just made it to the bridge. Do you think she believed him? Do you believe him? Well, you ken what, it's a story, and anything can happen in a story. And I hope you enjoyed my telling of it. Who knows, maybe you'd like to read the poem. I've included a link to the poem and a translation of it as well, if you fancy reading it. Is there a type of story you like, or a particular story you like? If through your teachers you let me know, maybe I can think about the types of stories that you would like me to tell, and I can tell them. But until then, thank you for watching, and cheerio. Bye.